Surely you clicked on this video wondering what in the heck this guy is talking about. Halo needs a renaissance? What does that even mean? That doesn't even make sense. How can Halo have a renaissance? Well, allow me to clarify what I am saying, and in doing so, expressing the importance of this commentary. When I say renaissance, I'm not referring to the Italian Renaissance, but rather I'm talking about the word in general. Simply put, the definition of the word renaissance is a renewal of life, vigor, interest, rebirth, and revival. That's it, that's all there is to it, and after knowing that, I am almost certain that you as a viewer can foreshadow the direction in which this commentary is shooting towards. Halo, in my opinion, needs every single one of these characteristics that define a renaissance. It needs a renewal of life, it needs vigor, interest, a rebirth, and most of all, it needs a revival. So why does Halo need all these things? Well, Halo needs them, and I'm going to be quite honest with how I feel here, because 343 Industries ran this franchise into the ground with the continuous releases of their low-quality Halo titles. Yes, I'm talking about Halo 4, the MCC, and even Halo 5. With every single title that 343 have released, each one has been riddled with problems and inconsistencies that are turning the fans away. Halo 4, the game that changed the entire gameplay of Halo into a Call of Duty hybrid to cater to another audience of gamers who simply were not interested. The Master Chief Collection, arguably the biggest failure in the history of gaming, launches an unfinished, broken product that was a total slap to consumers who were more interested with the classic style. And now Halo 5, a game that still fails to feel like Halo at all, releasing with almost zero content post-launch whilst featuring a microtransaction system topped by having arguably the worst campaign in the history of the entire Halo franchise. Clearly, the games that are being created by 343 are only subpar renditions that don't match with the desired expectations that were raised by traditional Halo games, and in failing to please much of their audience, 343 have butchered this franchise. I mean, think about it. Why would I as a consumer continue to keep buying and playing Halo games when the most recent entries only continue a trend of displease and incompetence? I wouldn't, and this, in my opinion, is the reason for Halo's decline. Halo used to be the franchise that sat atop the throne of the entire FPS genre. It was the industry leader when it came to gaming and raised the bar toward its FPS competitors. Now evidence reveals that things have changed quite dramatically. Halo 5, as I mentioned in previous videos, is the lowest selling Halo game in the mainline series of the history of the franchise, while both Halo 4 and 5 population numbers have dropped significantly to the point of being ghost towns after release. As it stands right now, Halo 5 sits at spot 21 in terms of population and sits even lower in other European regions. How can you sit there and tell me that the direction that this franchise is going for is good when in reality all of this says otherwise? It is my understanding that a lot of people blame Halo's decline of sales and population to its competition. The idea that Halo is doing bad because there are so many other FPS shooters that are saturating the entire genre. You hear this argument all the time among the Halo community, but really, I don't like this argument because I think it's just an excuse for those who aren't willing to accept the shortfalls of 343 Halo. The bottom line is that Halo is doing worse because it's not the best anymore. And trust me, that is hard to say after growing up as a kid with this franchise, and this is the primary reason for why I'm sitting here doing this commentary as I speak. But to the many with a similar mindset, it's only the truth. Halo isn't doing worse because of an oversaturation of shooters in the FPS genre, but rather Halo is doing worse because it can't compete with those shooters in the FPS genre. Why can't Halo compete? Well, Halo can't compete because of the many mishaps I already addressed. Each failure that 343 have released has taken its toll on the Halo franchise to the point where people are simply becoming disinterested, therefore damaging the franchise. Whether it's lack of content to feeling nothing like a Halo game, these negatives put counterintuitive weights on the Halo franchise's shoulders that are only holding it down from achieving like it did in the original Halo trilogy. Imagine a runner who was the best runner in his city. He could outrun anybody who dared to compete in his marathon races. It won't matter how many people race with him because he is the best. He trains the hardest, he works the hardest, and he always gives it his all. This runner was the original Halo. No, but now the marathon runner stopped training, injured himself, started working less, and didn't give it his all when he completed in his races, resulting in him not winning anymore. That right there is 343 Halo for you in a nutshell, cause see, like the runner, Halo started off strong and intense, releasing masterpiece games that defined the genre, and then later became led by a developer who isn't doing nearly as good, causing Halo to lose to its competitors. Yet this is why Halo needs a renaissance. Halo isn't doing as well as it should be, and the people who buy the Halo games aren't playing out their continual displease, not even getting into the fact that the community is totally ill toxic and divided. Halo experiencing a renaissance would rejuvenate the franchise with a revival that is very much needed at this point, and I understand some of the concerns that you may have had so far. Some of you may like Halo 5 or even 4 for that matter, but there is no denying that those games put Halo in the negative state that it is in, and that we should be looking for solutions that will revive this franchise so it can once again succeed like it did before. So how can Halo redeem itself after so many mishaps? How can 343 make Halo as great as it used to be, providing stronger sales and overall populations? The answer is quite simple, and it all deals with the idea of looking back. Halo needs to look back? What does that even mean? Well, research will tell you that in order to experience any renaissance, there must be some sort of looking back to what was done before. In the Italian Renaissance's case, science, technology, art, and knowledge were all advanced by looking back to classical works from the Roman Empire. Instead of changing everything, they simply looked back at how things were done before, which resulted in the explosion of resources that further assisted the development of the modern era. Well, Halo, in my opinion, needs to do this too. It needs to look back to the classic original trilogy and use those games as influences to create a Halo masterpiece. This, of course, correlates with the argument surrounding the idea that 343 do nothing but change Halo. Change, which I believe is true. If you look at their track record, 343 have done nothing but change this franchise from the ground up. Everything from the gameplay mechanics to even the art style. The classic Halo feel isn't relevant with these newer 343 Halo games, and the same is the case with Halo 5. Yeah, they add equal starts and remove armor abilities, but is that really enough? What about the weapons? Why do they all sound different? Well, what about the art style? Why does everything look so shiny and bright when previous Halo looked sacred and desolate? Why is there enhanced mobility, ADS, clamber, slide, shoulder charge, thrust, ground pound? What is this? It isn't Halo. What happened to all the game modes? Where is split screen? Where is I don't know. I could go on and on with the changes that deviate from the classic Halo trilogy, because all 343 do is change. Some changes good, of course, for instance the custom game browser in Halo 5, something that I have been asking for years. I have not once said change is bad, but 343's case of change is going too far, and they show very minimal cases of looking back to the roots of the series like they should be. Instead of changing everything that they get their hands on, 343 need to look back to the strong sides of classic Halo and build on those existing foundations. I once made a video comparing Halo CE through Reach to a toolbox. Inside this Halo toolbox are the ideal tools to craft the perfect Halo game. Hey, why don't we take this tool from Halo 2 and allow people to play as elites in matchmaking? Why don't we use this tool from Halo 3 and incorporate a proper veto system? See, 343 have all the tools necessary to craft the masterpiece of a Halo game, because they have the power to look back at each Halo game to see what worked and what did not work, but obviously they aren't doing that. Instead, they are going off in their own direction, trying to put a stamp on something that we already have our desires tied to. So again, the key to creating a successful Halo game deals with the concept of looking back at traditional Halo games to craft an even better Halo game. And I'm going to try to offer you specific examples so you can better grasp this concept that I'm trying to convey. Gameplay, certainly the most important area which 343 need to look back to classic Halo, because to many, the enhanced mobility style presented by Halo 4 and 5 has received tons of criticism. If 343 were to truly look back to Halo's gameplay, then there wouldn't be sprint, slide, ADS, shoulder charge, and ground pound, and a bunch of other nonsensical movement mechanics that deviate from original gameplay in its entirety. Traditional Halo was built with a focus towards a strict emphasis on slow movement speeds, with the idea of always having your gun up. The golden Halo triangle, if you will, where players are always supposed to be able to move and shoot and throw grenades except when occupying vehicles. See, slow movement was not the downfall of Halo. When Halo featured slow movement speeds, it was more popular than ever. With hundreds and thousands of players simultaneously playing at any given time frame, how can you sit there and tell me that a Halo game stripped of enhanced mobility would not succeed in today's market? There is nothing you can say that proves that a Halo with no enhanced mobility in mind wouldn't work. Yet there is evidence that says enhanced mobility is one of the reasons for Halo's decline. Starting with Halo Reach, player populations dwindled, and ever since 343 built upon that style of Halo gameplay, player engagement and population have never been the same. But in actuality, 343 needed to look back to the roots of Halo in terms of gameplay, because that is what many dormant Halo players are looking for. Imagine on the back of the Halo cover a description saying, "The classic Halo game you have been waiting for." See, many Halo fans are waiting for a Halo game that tailors to the classic style so they can continue playing the ideal Halo game that they desire, and releasing a Halo with traditional movement whilst lacking many enhanced mobility mechanics would be one of the ways to achieve a revival. Some, however, may feel that resorting back to the classic style of Halo gameplay would only split the community even more, as there's already a portion of fans who enjoy the enhanced mobility style. But really, maybe they need to accept change like we have for years with 343 Halo, which I find funny because that is something that I hear all the time when someone has a problem with the idea of going back to the roots of traditional Halo. They say, hey, you need to accept change. Halo is evolving. Well, yes, I have accepted change since Halo Reach, and this change hasn't done anything but put one of my favorite franchises of all time in a position of low sales, low populations, and a divided community. So maybe, like I insisted, there should be a change to a more classical style to make many Halo players feel right at home again, therefore being one of the many stepping stones that would encourage the Halo franchise to experience a renaissance. Now, although gameplay is very important, there is also the concern of how the game looks and the mood that it tries to create. That is art style, in my opinion, one of the most important parts of a video game that go hand in hand with gameplay, as when both are top notch they create experiences that are almost indescribable. However, with 343's art style, nothing, in my opinion, looks like Halo. And yes, art style may be a tricky topic to discuss because a lot of it relates to your personal taste, but I'm in support of an art style that captures the image of traditional Halo. That is a realistic, simplistic, yet colorful depiction of the Halo universe that doesn't try to overdo things just to look cool. Meanwhile, 343 tries to shoot for bright lights and shiny metallic surfaces that really moves in the opposite direction of the desolate, almost ancient and mysterious written surfaces found in the original Halo trilogy. Even the character models differ greatly in 343 Halo, when it's going from a simple badass get the job done Spartan to nothing more than a Bits and Bobby overdone Power Ranger in space that looks nothing like Halo. Enemy AI even went from a simple uncomplicated design to an arguably overcomplicated complex design that shares nothing with the likes of the original style, as goes the same with weapons, environments, and everything else that is art style specific. It just doesn't look like Halo. See, the problem with continual varying art style among the Halo franchise is that there isn't really any consistency or familiarity when playing Halo games anymore. What was once recognizable and consistent turned into something totally out of this world that doesn't help identify to the actual roots of the Halo series, which of course is the goal of looking back. Looking back to a traditional art style that would mesh with traditional gameplay concepts would instill the idea to players that they are actually playing a true Halo game, instead of something far-fetched and unfamiliar looking to the franchise. Content also holds a very important premise to the quality and continual success for any Halo game. It's as though when 343 create Halo games, they always forget to include something important into their games that were already built by the foundation of traditional Halo. In fact, traditional Halo games set a trend for launching with a content-rich feature set that made other games pale in comparison, which of course is just one reason to buy a game in itself. Just knowing that there was so much to do and enjoy would almost be enough to persuade buyers to justify a purchase. Not only this, but providing more content from the start encourages users to come back and keep playing continually, providing higher populations. Halo 3, a game that launched with a pretty good campaign, 4-player online co-op featuring a multiplayer sandbox full of 11 top-notch studio-developed maps, 4-player split screen, a reward system based on completing tasks to earn certain armor variants, topped by implementing the user-generated Forge creation tool that provided endless experiences along with content sharing. Yes, all of this listed at a $60 purchase. But what about Halo 5, a game that launched with an arguably horrible campaign mode featuring only Warzone, the rec system, a multiplayer set devoid of stable game modes and community features, along with the lack of split screen. That's it. That's all Halo 5 offered at launch, and it certainly paled in comparison to previous Halo titles. But the overall point should be to look back at the amount of content that Halo 3 or even Reach launched with and try to replicate those ideas since day one, while expanding on some features as well. I really don't think there is any argument here. Looking back at the amount of content that previous Halo games launched with and matching those expectations would no doubt give players more of a reason to stay longer and play more, further pushing Halo towards a much needed revival after the release of the once content barren Halo 5. Narrative is also something that 343 need to look back to, especially after playing Halo 5's campaign. Traditional Halo offered a narrative that had an intense focus on the Master Chief and his overall adventure. It also branched off in Halo 2, telling intricate stories involving other characters such as the Arbiter, Tartarus, the Heretics, Gravemind, and even the Prophets. From the very beginning, you knew what was going on, and for the most part, you were not lost and constantly asking yourself, what is going on here? Why am I doing this? Or how is this even relevant? However, if you aren't into reading lore like myself, then you will find to be totally lost in the narrative that Halo 5 tries to tell. So much so that after the first campaign mission of Halo 5, I had no idea what was going on and who these characters even were. I mean, who are Blue Team and why are they even with the Master Chief? Who are all these characters on Spartan Locke's team? Who is Spartan Locke, for Pete's sake? Who is this enemy? Joel, I don't know what the hell his name is. Who is the Warden Eternal? What is his motive? How does this even connect with Halo 4's story? Right? Halo 5's campaign is just outright awful. I mean, words cannot even explain. So awful that I couldn't tell you from Adam who these characters are, what their purpose was in Halo 5, even if they had any. With the next Halo story, 343 need to look back to previous Halo games to see how narrative and character development was achieved in Halo 2. It felt badass to see the Arbiter face Sergeant Johnson and Miranda Keyes. There was tension, you cared for these characters, and the story had them cross paths in an effective way. But with Halo 5, who is this enemy? What is going on here? Why is this happening? Without reading the expanded lore, you feel lost as to what is going on with the campaign, causing it to be a total disaster. Halo is a franchise known for telling compelling narrative and amazing storytelling, so how could 343 fail so miserably at delivering a quality story when really it's become a standard for this franchise to release a good story? Featuring an impressive campaign should be a priority when creating Halo games, so 343 need to look back to the writing, events, and effective character developments that were achieved in previous Halos to create a better campaign. Being a staple game mode, the campaign for many players is the main reason to purchase a Halo game. So imagine how disappointed and uninterested most people were after playing Halo 5. Likewise, the overall point I'm trying to convey here is that looking back is a crucial step towards creating a successful installment in the Halo franchise, and 343 aren't good at this. It doesn't stop with just gameplay, art style, content, and story. There's a wide variety of areas that 343 need to practice looking back on, from reward systems, ranking systems, matchmaking, vehicles, main menu, multiplayer lobbies, music, tone, just about everything you can think of. No, I'm not saying copy and paste all the classical Halo games by any means. Look, all I'm saying is that it's important to build upon the existing foundation that was already given to you, rather than leveling the entire site completely. All the solutions, 343, were already given to you through the trial and error that Bungie and the other Halo games have already gone through. It is important for you to look back to the classic Halo games and pick out all the great things that those games did, so you can incorporate them into a masterpiece Halo title that would once again shake the gaming platform and define the FPS genre. If 343 can do this, if 343 can look back, then I believe that Halo will experience a renaissance, and a revival is bound to happen to this franchise in the near future. As always, I'd like to thank you for watching. Remember to like, share, comment your thoughts and concerns on the video, and lastly, subscribe to Weapons Grade for more content about the future of Halo and how we can make it better. Peace.